Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the third episode of for tonight's session. We're going to do Martin Van Buren, eighth president of the United States. Mr. Van Buren was born on December 5th, 1782, in Columbia, New York. He died July 24th, 1862, in Kinderhook, New York. Nicknames included the Little Magician, Old Kinderhook, and Martin Van Ruin. Dutch Reformed was his religion. That's cool. No higher education, but studied law with an attorney. His profession was a lawyer and a senator, but no military service. His father was Abraham Van Buren. His mother was Maria Hoes Van Allen Van Buren. His wife was Hannah Hoes Van Buren, wed in 1807. Children included Abraham Van Buren, John Van Buren, Martin Van Buren II, Winfield Scott, 1830. Oh, Winfield Scott. I just read about him. And Smith Thompson. Did I just read about Winfield Scott? Where was that? I thought I read. Where did I read that name? Ah, Winfield Scott. (1813). Okay. Okay, so I'm sorry. Martin Van Buren's political life: Columbia County Attorney, New York State Senator for a year, U.S. Senator for 7 years, Governor of New York, January to March 1829, so only 3 months, Secretary of State for 2 years. His presidency was one term, 4 years, March 4th, 1837 through March 4th, 1841. He was a Democrat. Reason for leaving office: lost 1840 election to William Henry Harrison. His vice president was Richard M. Johnson. The election of 1836, electoral votes are as follows: Van Buren 170, Harrison 73, Mr. White 26, and Mr. Webster 14. Popular vote in 1836 was Van Buren 765,483, Harrison 549,508, Mr. White 145,352, and Mr. Webster 41,287. His cabinet for Mr. Martin Van Buren included John Forsyth as Secretary of State, Secretary of the Treasury Levi Woodbury, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of War Joel R. Poinsett, Attorney General Benjamin Butler, Felix Grundy, and Henry D. Gilpin. Secretary of the Navy Mahlon Dickerson, James K. Paulding, and Postmaster General Amos Kendall and John M. Niles. For Van Buren's inauguration, the outgoing president rode in the carriage with the incoming president, establishing a tradition that continues today. Van Buren's inauguration was the first to have floats in its parade. Oh, it's interesting. Instead of being paid annually as president, Van Buren took a salary in one lump payment at the end of his term. That's a good idea. Thank you very much. Supreme Court appointments: John McKinley and Peter V. Dent. The Panic of 1837. Financial changes during the Jackson presidency, including killing the second Bank of the United States. That's why. That's why we paid off so much debt. Killing the second Bank of the United States and issuing a specie circular restricting the use of state bank notes in 1836 caused many banks to reduce their credit and call in their loans. This created a panic which worsened when depositors withdrew funds and companies began closing. Double-digit employment resulted, as did mob violence. New York City witnessed rioting as hungry people raided warehouses of food. The Depression lasted about 6 years, and the Democratic Party lost the 1840 election when people voted for the Whigs, whom they hoped would be able to fix the economy. Wow. That's why the national debt was so low under the last president. That's crazy. That is crazy, folks. Population of 1837, 17,069,453. Okay, let's see if that's changed from Andrew Jackson's time. Okay, yeah. Okay, we just read what happened. Now we know why it happened, why there was little debt. It was because of the Panic of 1830. Okay. Panic of 1830. Okay, now, 1841, the national debt went back up $5 million or so. 4,900,000. 4.9 million dollars. National debt in 1841, 5,250,806. Of course, 25 grand a year. It's the same. It's the same. All right. No states added to the union. Okay. Did we know Van Buren and his wife spoke Dutch in their home? They were Dutch reform people. Van Buren was the first president born in the newly declared United States of America after 1776. Van Buren was the first president born in the newly declared United States of America after 1776. Let's see if that's correct. (1782). Yeah, that's right. Andrew Jackson, so when he was born, 1767. That's about 9 years off. So, okay, so Andrew Jackson was born 9 years before Declaration. He was 9 years old. Wow, that's crazy. He was 9 years old. Wow. Huh. Andrew Jackson was 9 years old at the first Independence Day. Wow. That's cool. Trail of Tears. Following the directive of the U.S. government, the Army marched into Cherokee lands of North Carolina and Georgia in the fall of 1838 to forcibly remove the natives from their homeland. This came after years of legal wrangling that ultimately involved the state of Georgia, the U.S. Supreme Court, and President Andrew Jackson. The majority of Cherokee were forced to, at gunpoint to leave their homes in Smoky Mountains and travel west to Indian Territory. Of the 15,000 people making the long, arduous journey that stretched over the winter, 4,000 perished. Thus it was named the Trail of Tears. I don't think that was a good idea, to be honest, to forcibly remove Indians from their homeland. Aroostook War and Webster Ashburton Treaty, 1842. Okay. In 1839, ongoing disagreement between Americans and Canadians, interesting, regarding the Maine New Brunswick border threatened to become violent. The border had never been officially determined since the Treaty of Paris in 1783, and loggers on both sides desired the timberlands. President Van Buren dispatched General Winfield Scott. Oh, I think he named one of his kids Winfield Scott. That's probably why. But that Winfield Scott, the child, didn't live very long. That's okay. To the region to prevent bloodshed. Then in 1842, representatives of both the British and American governments agreed to the Webster-Ashburton Treaty to split the disputed territory, now some 12,000 square miles, with New Brunswick receiving the majority of the land. The two nations also decided to survey and mark the border of the United States from the Lake of the Woods eastward. Did we know the expression "okay" began being heard about the time of Van Buren's presidency, and some believe it refers to a nickname for him, Old Kinderhook. More likely, though, it was from a popular expression used in New York and Boston to mean all correct, intentionally misspelled, intentionally. All correct, all correct, all correct. All right. So national debt between the two, I read before, crazy, and now it went back up $5 million. Very crazy reading there. Very crazy. I hope you enjoyed these 3 readings, and I hope you have a great day and a great week. Bye-bye.